I really, 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 really like you. Just to preface what we're talking about, at no point in my elementary, middle school, or high school career did I ever have anyone be that emphatic about their feelings towards me. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. Someone has just hit, really repeat, and then say like you. Usually it's like, I really, 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 really recognize that you're in the room at the same time as me. Like that's about the extent of my interaction, especially with the female species in elementary, middle, and high school. I had Holly and I started dating at the end of high school. It was April of our senior year when we started dating. I was in love with her from day one in first grade. She was the hottest first grader I have ever seen. I was also in first grade, so that makes it okay for me to say. If I was not in first grade, that'd be really creepy. Still a little creepy to say. So I was kind of in love with Holly from day one, and she was like beautiful and stuff, and so I was like nervous, never really talked to her. We were friends and stuff, but I never had the guts to say that. I would have said I really, 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 and then I'd run away. Like there's no way I could have had the guts to do that. I almost didn't because we were a month away from graduating and never seeing each other again before I pulled the trigger. So because of being so wrapped up in Holly and my love for her as a first grader, I didn't have a whole lot of like girlfriend situations, mostly because I was about this tall in the third grade. I was like really, really like frail, not thin, frail, like it was bad. And on top of that, I was really nervous about talking to anyone, much less girls. So I didn't have a lot of experience with the boy-girl stuff. I had a couple middle school relationships, and when I say middle school relationships, you know what I mean? Your friends say you guys are going out, and then like a week later, your friends go, y'all broke up. Anybody ever been in one of those? I didn't even know we were dating, and we broke up. She doesn't like you anymore. Who? I don't know. This is news to me. I mean, why would you tell me? Just let me go on my day. I had no idea. I had a couple of those that don't really count, and maybe that's you. I see a couple senior guys that's probably still the case, Chandler. You can't wear the Duke shirt and not expect me to mock you. I'm sorry. So as we're going to spend the next couple weeks talking about relationships, we're going to talk about sex, we're going to talk about dating, we're going to kind of open the whole thing up and not just see what Michael's vast experience on the subject is, because it would bore you and it wouldn't be that helpful. But what we are going to do is open up God's Word, and we're going to see what God has to say about our relationships. We're going to see what God has to say about our sex and what God has to say about our dating situations. With the title, I really, really repeat, love you, like, whatever. It's at the bottom. With that being kind of the focus, obviously we're going to be talking about this love thing. And I've noticed over 3 decades on this planet, the human species is kind of in love with the concept of love, aren't we? Like we are all, if you look at iTunes, like the top songs that are it's all love songs, or they're weird versions of like angry, sad situations, like all of Taylor Swift's songs, just like, "Urgh!" Or they're making fun of people who make fun of her about being in love. It's this whole thing. Love is a big concept. It's huge. We as a population are really in love with love, and it's not abnormal. We were actually as a species, we were designed to feel all the feels. I love that phrase because it means exactly what it says. We were designed to feel all the feels. Our hearts have the capacity for love. God didn't just make the parts right so that we could have more people. God gave us the capacity to experience and express love. I think especially in this season, we get really focused on, well, love is more this physical thing. It becomes this, the hand-holding, the kissing, all the other things that it leads to, and love is expressed that way, and we get caught up in where it goes, and we miss the fact that we were created with the capacity to experience and express love. We love love. We are designed to want to love and to want to be loved. So we experience all the feels. And as you've transitioned from the middle school dating experiences, which were your friends told you were dating and then they told you were broken up randomly out of nowhere on a Tuesday, Now you have all the feels, and that boy who, he was mean 6 months ago is now like, but his hair. That's what I want in my future husband. The father of my children is the floopy hair. Girls, you're laughing because it is completely true. And guys, I'm not going to make fun of you, because if I did, it'd be mean and heartless and very descriptive. And I'm not going to do that. Why you are stupid in this area, in this season. We were designed with the capacity and the desire to love and to be loved. In this season, you have this big struggle that comes between your head and your heart. Like in middle school, your heart was in charge, right? In middle school, you're like, okay, I'm a girl, and that's a boy, and I want to stay with the girls because we all smell good, and we're just fun hanging out, whatever. Your brain makes sense to you, right? Guys, you're like, I want to throw things and hit things and tackle things and spit on things. See? Not all of it's gone. And so your head is in control. You move into this season, and your heart takes over, and your heart goes, I know that boy smells, and he's mean, and he's weird, and he makes dumb jokes, but bump, 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 and you find yourself just, I really, really, really like him, and you think about him when you're in class, and you talk about him behind his back with all your friends, and guys, you're not that creative. You just go, yeah, she's cute. Like that. It's about the extent of our experience with the heart. That's as far as we're able to experience right now, and that's a good thing for most of us. So we have this struggle in this season especially, but really and truly it kind of goes for the rest of your life, because as you become an adult, you have this desire to love and this desire to be loved, this desire to chase somebody and the desire to be chased by somebody, to be wanted and to want someone else. And that struggle that you've begun experiencing over the last few years is so real. That tension, it takes over. All the decisions that you try to make in life, they all have something to do with that. I challenge you, I dare you, find a decision that you make that doesn't in some way involve what somebody of the opposite sex is going to think of you. Even down to what college you go to, because you know where she's going and you know where you want to go, but if I go there, I can go to school with her. It affects everything. I want to hit 3 different sentences that I've talked about this many, many times over the last 16 years in youth ministry. I've talked about this a lot, so we could be up here for a long time. But I'm going to try to narrow it down to 3 sentences that if you understand these 3 sentences, it will really and truly change the way that you experience that feels situation. Okay? It'll change the way that we experience this desire, this capacity to want somebody else and to want to be wanted by somebody else, to experience love. So if you write things down, you can write these things down. But if you've got your Bible, flip it over to Judges. We're going to hang out in the Old Testament tonight. Judges, we're going to look at chapter 16. If it's on your phone, you have permission to get on your phone. Look at Judges chapter 16. In Judges chapter 16, we see a guy who is, in my mind, he's like a model, like a beautiful guy, big long hair, huge muscles, but he is not the type of person you want to model your life after, okay? If you've read past one chapter of Samson, you know where it goes, and it's not good. I heard J.P. Vanderlinden was one of our small group leaders. He gave the best illustration of the end result of Samson's life like a year ago. I heard this. He says, if you follow Samson's dating model, you'll end up blind in a foreign prison and then die. This is not where you want to go. So let's preface that ahead of time. Don't be like Samson. But Samson struggled with something that every one of us struggles with, and this is the sentence that's important. Our hearts are satisfied too easily. Our hearts are satisfied way too easily. Way too easily. If you look at Samson's life, he kind of has this history of terrible relationship decisions. He goes after these girls who are Philistines, which is their enemies. They're the Israelites and the Philistines do not get along. They kill each other. They hate each other. It's just not good. And he keeps going trying to date girls. It's Carolina fan trying to date a Duke fan. It's just not going to be good. Just stop. And all his friends are like, stop. And his parents are like, stop. And things go so bad that his first girl he likes, he marries her, and then the Philistines kill her to make him mad, and then he gets a bunch of foxes and lights them on fire and throws them into their camp and goes and kills all of them. It's telling you, the Bible's incredible. So that's his ex. That's what he's dealing with walking into chapter 16. In chapter 16, he starts liking this other Philistine girl, which is a terrible decision again. And in verse 4 and 5, it says, Samson loved a woman in the valley of Sorek whose name was Delilah. And now you all have that song in your head. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, seduce him and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him. So Samson had been given this incredible strength from the Lord, and as long as he never cut his hair, he would have just incredible strength, and he'd kill all the Philistines, and he was going to be the judge over Israel and the hero for Israel. And Delilah sneaks in, and he just is all about some Delilah, right? He's all about her. And what we see from Samson through this pattern of terrible relationship decisions, what was true of him is true of us. He's so easily satisfied. His heart is too easily satisfied. And this is true of us as well. Our hearts are easily satisfied. In a very temporary sense, our hearts are easily satisfied. And what that means, when I talk about the floopy hair, you think that's a joke, and he's just being silly. But you know in your heart how true that is. How your heart can get so wrapped up in some guy or some girl simply because of something superficial like their hair or the way that their body looks or even the way that they make you feel in any given moment. Girls, there could be a guy who is an absolute jerk. He is mean. He's just not a nice person to be around. But if he looks at you and he winks at you, you fall apart. And that is not an insult to any girl in this room. That is just how our hearts want to be wanted so badly. We're so easily satisfied in our hearts. Guys, you do the same thing. Any girl who flips the hair, winks at you as if it would happen. I don't know if these happen to guys. It never happened to me, but I'm assuming some of you get this kind of situation. I've seen this happen many times. You've got a great group of friends. You and your guys are bros, man. You're bros. And this girl comes in. And well, I don't really hang out with those guys anymore because she wanted me to wash her car. Because she wanted me to take her to a concert and I didn't have any money, so I had to get a job. So now I got a job, and I got to wash her car. I got to take her pets for a walk. I got to spend time with her mom. I got to hang out. Your whole world gets wrapped up in maintaining this relationship. Some of you are pointing, and that's mean. Our hearts are too easily satisfied. And we'll willingly just rip that thing out and give it to somebody. First person that looks at you, smiles at you, says that you look pretty. Doesn't say that you look pretty, but that kind of leads you on. Girls, we just so easily rip our heart out and give it to somebody. Guys, you do the same thing. And that comes from a place that was designed for our hearts to do that. But when we do it incorrectly, when we go after this imperfect kind of love, this temporary kind of love, this really, 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 really like you, we'll rip our heart out and we'll give it to somebody else. We are so easily satisfied. And because of that, we will change everything about our lives, our standards, our goals, what sports team we like, what food we like. It's everything. Everything about you is up for grabs. Everything about you is up for interpretation and will change on a dime for that guy or that girl. I promise you, this is not a new thing in 2015. It's been happening forever because our hearts want to be loved and we want to love. If you continue with Samson, it does not go well, obviously. In verse 15, she starts nagging on him. She starts begging him. She says to Samson, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me 3 times. You've not told me where your great strength lies. He finally gives up the answer that if his hair's cut, then he loses his strength. Interesting that she uses the phrase, your heart is not with me. All she had to do was ask him 3 times, and he gave up the secret that God had entrusted him alone with. That if his hair was cut, he'd be weak. He chose so easily to give his heart up to Delilah. And we do that. We're so easily satisfied. Second sentence that I want to give us today is from Proverbs. You can flip to Proverbs. We're going to be there for a moment. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. There's a good chance you've heard this verse before. This is a powerful one. If we get this changes a lot of things. Chapter 4, verse 23 says, Samson's talking throughout this chapter, talking to like a young man who's needing some wisdom, needing some guidance. And he says in verse 23, above all else, above all the other things I've told you, guard your heart. Everything you do flows from it. Guard your heart. Here's what I've learned about hearts. And I assume this is true about real physical, the blood pumping organ as well, but our hearts are sticky. I don't want to touch a real heart. That sounds gross. But our real hearts, the seat of our emotion, what controls our desires and our wants, our hearts are so stinking sticky. They're sticky. I'll show you what I mean. Anybody like Play-Doh? I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. Our house is covered in Play-Doh, and I don't like it. This is bothering me just touching it. I don't like Play-Doh. Let's say, it feels gross. This feels like a human heart must feel. That's probably way off, and I'm not a doctor. Let's say this is, we'll make up a name. How about Chandler? I'm just kidding. That's not a made-up name. I know a guy named Chandler. And a girl. Interesting. Let's say this is Fred. Is there a Fred in the room? Okay, good. Oh no. Hey Fred. This is Fred. Fred is our guy here. Let's say Fred. Let's just make it really interesting. Fred meets Wilma. It's probably not a Wilma here, right? This is Wilma. This is going to represent Wilma. Fred and Wilma, they notice each other from across the room. They have that moment. Time stops. Everyone else kind of moves, but they are just locked on each other. It's in slow motion. Everyone else is fast. They just got that moment. That meet cute. They see each other across the room, and they know this person is going to change their life. Cue the Ed Sheeran backing track. Feel the somber John Green undertones as everyone's going to die later. Okay, just kidding. Okay, Fred and Wilma. They see each other. They go, ooh, she's cute. Ooh, he's got the floopy hair, and he winked at me, and he can probably know how to wash my car and take me to concerts and stuff. Okay, so they see each other, we'll do this on several different levels. Let's say they forsake all the other relationships. She leaves all of her girls. They're old news, and the guys, they didn't like them anyways. Now he's got a girl, and so who needs friends when you have a girlfriend? And they get really, really close. They become inseparable. They spend all their time together. And let's say that they spend all their time together, and then let's say they start saying things like, I love you, and I've always loved you, and I will always love you, and you're the only one ever. And then they because of how much they love each other, they want to express that physically. So they start, doing physical things together. They hold hands, they kiss. They end up doing other things. They have sex. They become as close as you can possibly be with another human being. They experience that intimacy. They become, biblically, they become one. Now let's say they go through a rough patch. Wilma catches Fred checking out Betty. Wilma realizes how much fun her friends were, and she wants to spend time with those friends again. And they realize, you know what? Maybe we don't love each other as much as we thought we did. I do have feelings for you, but I don't love you. I really like being your friend, but I don't like, I want to see other people, and I want to spend time with them. And then they're kind of in a predicament, aren't they? Because they're kind of stuck. Now I'm going to attempt this, but I don't think that you can get all the, nope. Well, there's Wilma. She's got a lot of Fred, and there's Fred. He's got quite a bit of Wilma. You see, our hearts do this. Whether you get caught up physically with somebody else, you go too far, you have sex, you do whatever it is. There's lots of places you can go that are too far, and I'm not going to draw a line for you, but even if it's just a heart thing, even if Fred just gives his heart to Wilma, that goes away. Fred's heart is sticky, and he's going to carry some of Wilma with him everywhere he goes. For the rest of Fred's life, he's got some of Wilma in his heart. Some of you know what that's like exactly. For some of you, it may be still the middle school thing. You had that one boy, and you'll never give up on Justin Bieber. Like he's gonna be your husband one day. And I'm not being silly because I still see your Twitter. And at 17 and 18, you're still infatuated with this guy. Maybe it's not him. Maybe it's somebody from school. Maybe it's somebody from your neighborhood or your job. Our hearts are sticky. Solomon is so specific. Guard your heart. It is the wellspring of life. Everything else about your life flows out of it. Our hearts are so sticky. And when Fred realizes that he wants to get with Yellow, I don't come up with another name, he wants to get with Betty. Things are going to get interesting as they get together. As let's say they get married and they become one. They do it right. They do it the way God intended for them to do it. They are together and they are together forever. Well, this is an interesting predicament for Betty, because now no matter how close she gets to Fred, who's always going to be there? Wilma. No matter what they do, you can't get rid of Wilma. Same thing will be true of Wilma and Barney. Our hearts are sticky. The dating relationships that you have now, the sexual experiences that you have now, they will stay with you long after you graduate, long after you leave this place and stop hearing me say things. For the rest of your life, the decisions that you make, dating with your heart, physically, sex, anything like that, those things stay with you. It doesn't expire, it doesn't go away. Guys, the things that you look at, it may be for 30 seconds, but it stays in your head. It stays in your heart. The way we treat our heart is so important because our hearts are sticky. We must guard them. The last sentence I'm going to give you, since we're getting intense here, our hearts long for perfect love. If you skip forward in Proverbs to chapter 20, I love this verse because this sentence captures exactly what every one of us feel when it comes to love. Proverbs 20 verse 6 says, "Many claim to have unfailing love, but a faithful person who can find?" Many claim to have unfailing love, but a faithful person who can find. We are all after unfailing love. We're all after a perfect love. We have inside of us a desire for a permanent person, someone to love us and for us to love. God placed that in our hearts for the purpose of fulfilling that through himself. And yet we're so easily look for anybody else and take that filter and go, okay, are you the perfect? Are you the perfect? Are you the perfect? And we chase after these temporary things, and it's a lot like, let's say I've got this hamburger here. Somewhere in there is a burger, I promise. This is McDonald's. If you haven't been there in a while, this is what they pretend is a hamburger. Now, I don't like McDonald's. For various reasons. There's meat. Let's get the meat out because, ew. This is a McDonald's hamburger. Now let's look at this. We can draw some conclusions about McDonald's from this. This is pretty cheap. Doesn't cost a whole lot. You can get one for like a nickel. It's inexpensive. It's easy to get. McDonald's are everywhere. They're all over the place. You pass them everywhere. There's one down the street here. I passed like 5 on my way home. It's cheap to get this. It's everywhere. You don't even have to get out of your car to get a burger. I don't know why this doesn't blow us away, that you can drive up somewhere and they'll hand you food. Like that should, why are we not just blown away by that? It's incredible. Drive through, they'll just give you this, what they call meat. It's cheap. You don't have to wait on it. You don't even have to get out of your car. And if you're hungry, this will satisfy your hunger for a short amount of time, followed by intense diarrhea. Okay, maybe a bit of a stretch, but the reality of a McDonald's hamburger, it may fill you up for a little while, but it is going to leave you, listen, it is going to leave you sick. You're going to get nauseous. You're going to go, oh, I wish I had not eaten that. No one eats a McDonald's hamburger and goes, best decision ever. It's always, please make it stop, right? Listen, don't miss this. This is what many of us experience in high school with dating relationships. This is what many of us experience when it comes to sex when we jump after it in high school. This nasty pretend hamburger. It's cheap. It's easy to get. It's accessible. I can get it. It's temporary, and it leaves me sick. If you have been in a relationship with somebody in the past, or you're in one right now, and you've gone too far with your heart, you've gone too far with your body, you know this. You're looking at that going, "Oh man, that's me. That's awful. I know that feeling. I get that. As soon as I get that in my gut, I feel that." This is the temporary junk that the world throws at us and says, "This is love. This is what you want. Your body's ready for this. Go for it." And you go, "Well, I'm hungry, so I'll have a hamburger." But the reality is we were not built to consume whatever this is. You and I were created with a desire for ribeye. This is a medium rare ribeye, 14 ounce from Outback. It's very strange they're making cattle calls because this is, in fact, cow. This is, well, let's just say this is the same type of food as the hamburger. They both claim to come from cow. They're both meat. But this ribeye is more expensive. This was $24. I just had to say please, and they gave that to me. This was $24. I had to wait. I had to order this ahead of time. I actually had to go online and get with Outback and say, "Hey, I'm going to come pick this up at 6 o'clock." And I had to wait for it. I had to pay for it. It cost more. I had to sit in the parking lot and wait for them to bring it out to me. I didn't get it in my car because I'm lazy, and you can do that now. But this is way more expensive, and there was waiting involved. And, you guys, all the feels right here. I love steak. There's a big difference between this and Nasty McBurger over here. Big difference. If you can't tell the difference, we need to have a talk. Big difference. Don't miss this. I'm almost done. This is what is thrown at us, and this is what we're promised is real. This is what we're promised is perfect. This is what we're promised will meet that need, will fulfill that desire. This is what we're promised. But this is what we're created for. We're created for something so much better than that junky little McHamburger. We're created with the capacity to experience perfect love. We have the desire to be loved. We have the desire to love. And that desire is not going to be met long term by temporary stuff, by imperfect junk. And the more you eat that, the more sick you're going to be, the more regret you're going to have, the more pain you're going to experience, the more consequences are going to flood your life. Because this is what we're created for. This is why your heart beats so strongly, to have another person care about you. We've been given the capacity to experience love, the capacity to express love. It's not just a physical thing to keep the humanity going. It is the ability to experience love because we have souls that desire to be loved. We're going to talk more about this, not meat, but perfect love next week. But right now, I sense that some of you are probably feeling not great because you've been here. You've been here for a week or a month or 3 years, and you get that sick feeling, and you know what it's like. And you go, I don't like it. Make it go away. Fix it. And you look at the world around you and go, I can't fix it, so I'll just keep eating hamburgers. As many as I can, I'll try to fill up on that and ignore the pain and get past the pain. And this is the reality of where you are right now. In Lamentations chapter 3, there is hope. I love this verse. Lamentations 3:21 through 23 says, "But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." Regardless of where you've been or what you've done or what you've seen or who you've given your heart to, God loves you. Not in a way that will last for a little while, and then he'll get bored of you and toss you to the side. Not in a way that will ever let you down. I love the way that verse ends. Great is your faithfulness. The God who created us with the capacity to experience love is the only one who can meet that need perfectly. And even if you have screwed it up in the past, even if you've dumped your heart and given it to somebody else, even if you've given yourself physically to somebody else, you go, I can't ever undo that. I'm over here looking like this, and I'm a mess. Even if this is you, that capacity, that desire to love and to be loved can still be met by God. Whether you have a relationship with God through Jesus or not, this is still not so broken that God can't fix it. You are not unlovable by him. Even if you've bought the lie, you've gone for imperfect love, he still wants you. He still has a plan for you. There's still power in a relationship with him.